Morning, everyone. Let's see if everything's good. Should be good. What's up, everyone? Good morning. Hope you guys are doing well. Today is Tuesday, August the 5th. We ended up having a nice rally in the overall markets yesterday, kind of outlined a potential kind of gap fill back towards the upside. Really strong price action within the first kind of 5 to 10 minutes, and that kind of tipped its hand for the rest of the day. Now you can see the markets bouncing here. A lot of these other names are bouncing as well. Nvidia, really solid push back towards the highs. We kind of talked about semiconductors potentially leading the way higher. A lot of names, and there's a lot of nice opportunity back towards the upside. We'll talk about kind of the game plan coming into today. We do have a little bit of red folder news, if I'm not mistaken, that is going to be at 10 a.m. Before we head, let me actually just make sure. Yeah, we have some 10 a.m. red folder news, which is going to be your ISM services. And we'll talk about that here in a second. Before we go over the charts and everything else, what's up? Good morning, Jeff. KO, what's up? B Roots, JT, Brian, Non-Tolly, what's up? Fan, Monty, Ryan, Robert, Joseph, Hartik, what's up, everyone? What's up? Arnold, Darth, Melissa. Good morning, Jen, Wayne, Luis, Arnold, Candy, what's up, Vate, Ollie, what's up, Cinna, NMK, what's up, Edison, Todd, Antonio, Carolina, what's up, Telmo, what's up, Cuta, Cuba. Good morning. Just want to say feel blessed to be part of this community on Discord and Traders Lab. Appreciate that. What's up, Eileen? Yeah. What's up, everyone? Hope you guys are doing well. Let's head on to the major indices, and then we will go on to some of the top watches we're looking at coming into today. So for the overall market, let's just kind of do a quick little overview, at least on the higher time frames. So far, you can see the buyers are actually stepping in exactly right off the bottom of our support. So this is the exact level the market had to hold if we want to see some more continuation higher. You can see really solid bounce right off that key level, which is our 6250. This one looks good for now a potential push if we can get back above this 6372. Really, the next level is just going to be back up and towards your all-time high. So this is basically the exact level here for the ES coming into today. This is the level that we broke down from. So as you can see, we end up having this nice rally. This is from FOMC plus earnings. And then this is also the area that we broke down from on Friday, or overnight on Friday, before we end up dropping towards the downside. So now you can see the market is just right back into this exact area. So what we like to see now is really the reaction that we have off this general area, right? If we can reclaim this level, we can push back up and towards the highs. If we end up rejecting off this level, there could be this lower high that's formed off of this breaker structure level. So this is going to be the key level coming into today. We can actually refine this level even more up into this order block. Let's go on to the SPY chart really quickly. Exact same thesis here on the SPY. You can see buyers stepped in right off our 620. This was the exact level we're looking at coming into this morning. We're keeping an eye on your previous day high, 626, along with this 620. You can see right off the bat within the first 5 minutes of market open, kind of tipped its hand, showing some relative strength right off the bat. So the next logical level in the overall markets was this full gap fill that we created on Friday. So as you can see, from Thursday to Friday, we have this big gap in the overall markets. Yesterday, we got above your previous day highs. We wanted to see this gap fill back up in towards your 630. You can see the market basically filled its gap, kind of had this really nice pop right off the bat, but then kind of slowly grinded up in towards this gap fill that we have. Currently, for the overall markets, exact same thing as the ES. We're just right back into the area that we broke down from. This was from earnings, also with FOMC. Now we're right back in this general 632 area. What I like to see so far, you can see we're actually above your 632. For long side, you like to see it maintain above the 632 for this continuation back towards the upside. If you're a little bit short just based off of this day, right, what you would like to see is the break back underneath your 632 for this continued push back towards the downside. So for the overall markets, after this nice bounce yesterday, we're just going to keep an eye out on your previous day highs along with this area that we broke down from, which is your 632. That's going to be the key level coming to today on the ES and the NQ. As for the daily chart, this daily chart looks fairly bullish after filling this big gap. So now, at least for the downside, I'm not as bearish anymore just because of yesterday's price action, right? We came into the day yesterday being open to playing both sides, right? It was just all based off of the reaction that we have off of your previous day highs. And within the first 5 minutes, it tipped its hand and we were looking for long positions basically all day for continuation back towards the highs. Similar thing with the SPY now, we're back above your 632. This is going to be the exact level. As for downside, I'm not as interested just because we had this nice rally yesterday and now we're above key levels. Only way I'm interested is going to be underneath your 632, and it shows a lot of relative weakness. If you look at the NQ, similar thing here. We're just right back into the area. Let me actually just readjust my levels real quick. We're just right back into the area where we ended up having this nice rally and where we ended up breaking down from. So for the NQ, you can see this is when we had that original rally towards the upside with FOMC along with earnings. We end up breaking down, so we're right back in this general area. So the exact same thing applies here for the NQ. If we're able to reclaim back above key levels, we can see this continue push back towards the upside. If we're underneath this level, I expect just a little bit more consolidation. The only way I'm interested in shorts is if price, at least for me now, would have to get underneath your previous day, preferably underneath your previous day lows, or if it shows a lot of weakness around this 566. So as you can see right here, for the QQQ, the 566 level is going to be key. This is the exact level as the ES, the NQ, along with the SPY. 566 is going to have to get above and maintain if we want to see any sort of continued pushback towards the upside. If we end up rejecting off this level, we can see this little mean reversion back in between yesterday's range, 564. So that's what I have here on the higher time frames for both the SPY and the Qs. If we're looking at this from a daily time frame perspective, to me, this actually just looks like now most likely we are just going to continue back up and towards your all-time highs, right? I really wanted this previous all-time highs retest. I think we're still going to get it eventually, but currently we're just holding key levels. To me, this looks like it could potentially push back up and towards your highs here. Similar thing to the ES. Bouncing off key levels of support. This is kind of your first pullback after this big rally. This to me looks like now it's just most likely going to have continuation unless we could get back underneath. Now it's going to be this 6240. So we'll keep an eye out on the ES and the NQ. As I mentioned, we'll just take this day by day just because now with the amount of volatility, a lot of things can happen on a day-to-day basis. So we'll just keep an eye out on the key levels that we'll have marked out, which would be just your previous day highs along with your previous day lows. As for some of the tech names that we're looking at coming into today, let's look at Tesla. So Tesla, kind of lagging the overall market here. Let me just remove a couple key levels. If we're looking at this on a higher time frame perspective, you can just see still building up liquidity to both sides. As for this name, what I would like to see if you want to see some continuation higher is now going to be the reclaim back above your previous day highs along with this basically this 312 general area. So you can see multiple touches here on Tesla. Now what we like to see is it get above your previous day highs, hold 312 for this potential continuation back towards the upside. If we end up rejecting off your 312, more downside is in play just because it does have relative weakness, at least coming into this week. And then potentially if we can get lower, which would be this 304, we can see some more continuation towards the downside. So for Tesla, keep an eye out on 312. That's going to be the key area coming into today. As for NVIDIA, really solid push back towards the upside. We talked about the key levels yesterday being your previous day highs, 176.40s along with this 174.40s. So if we look at this on the 1 hour time frame, This is basically the area we broke out from. Once we're able to reclaim this area, nice continue push higher. And then we also reclaimed your 176.50. That is where I was looking for long positions towards the upside. Once we're able to reclaim back above your Friday's highs, and you can see also your Thursday's key pivot level as well. So you can see previous support, resistance, turn back into support, as you can see right here, 176.50s. Nice continue with Palantir and a couple other names. But basically with NVIDIA, the semiconductors are continuing to show strength, as you can see here on the higher time frames. So AMD and NVIDIA, of course, are leading its way back towards the upside. As for NVIDIA coming into today, I would like to see this push back up in towards your all-time high. So levels we can have marked out is going to be this previous day highs level, 180. And then we can also have marked out now, it's going to be your all-time highs, 183.31. So for NVIDIA, what I like to see now, maintain your 180. As long as you can maintain your 180, we can see this potential push back up and towards this 183.30s. So this is kind of the scenario I'd like to see play out coming into today. On NVIDIA, maintain above 180 previous day highs for this push back up and towards your all-time highs, 183.31. So we'll keep an eye out on NVIDIA coming into this morning. Let me just mark this out. As for AMD, this one does have earnings tonight in after market. But as for AMD, similar thesis yesterday. This one, the IV was fairly high on this one, so I would recommend not to trade this one yesterday. Plus, even today, right, the IV is going to be elevated, so you really don't want to trade this one. But for AMD, nice reclaim back above this 174. Key levels that you're going to have marked out now is going to be your previous day highs, 178. Preferably, if you can maintain above this 178, you can see this push back up and towards this 182 here on the higher time frames. But as I mentioned, this one does have earnings tonight, so we'll just wait until tomorrow for a more clear direction on the semiconductors along with AMD. Overall, this one looks fairly bullish. It looks like it does want continuation higher. If you can now have good earnings, really, I wouldn't be surprised if good earnings comes in on AMD, potential push up in towards your 190 and potentially 200 here. So we'll see what happens tonight after earnings on AMD. As for other names, Microsoft came all the way back down close to our key retest level, not quite, but reclaim back above this this 532. That was a key level here. Now what we like to see on Microsoft is it maintain above your previous day highs if you want to see continuation. So there's two scenarios here on Microsoft: the hold above your 532, or now it's going to be the break above your previous day highs, hold for this continue push back towards the upside. So we have two levels marked out here on Microsoft, previous day highs along with this 532. As for Apple, nice kind of pop and fade that I talked about off our key levels being that 204.50 along with this 207.50. This one came actually all the way back in towards our low that we created after earnings. Nice retest, and you can see kind of seller stepping in right off this 207, pushing price back towards the downside. So now for Apple, what we like to see is it really maintain underneath this 204, right? Lower highs being built. Sorry, these I'd like to see kind of these lower highs being built off of your 207. I like to see kind of seller step in right here off this 204 for a potential continue push back down in towards your previous day lows here and below being that 200 key psych. So keep an eye out on your 204.50 coming into today. As for Meta, nice reclaim. We talked about this one. If we're able to reclaim back above that 765, multiple touches. Once we got above your 765, really nice continue push back towards the upside. Now next logical level is going to be your all-time highs, 785 here on the higher time frame. So as long as you maintain above your previous day highs, we can see this push up in towards your all-time highs, which is going to be this 785 here. As for some other names, Amazon, this one, similar thing with Apple. So we talked about the names that are going to stay heavy, most likely are going to have earnings. So Apple, Amazon, these ones have been staying heavy. The names that I was mentioning towards the upside with the semiconductors, with Meta, NVIDIA, Tesla, those ones played out nicely. As for Amazon and Apple, these ones, I'd like to see it kind of start basing here. With the overall market continuing back towards your all-time highs. But as for Amazon currently, You can see so far just slowly pushing back towards the downside now after it does have earnings. Key levels for me for more downside is going to be underneath this 215, preferably this kind of pop and fade, or now it's going to be underneath your previous day lows, which is going to be this 211 for this continued pushback towards the downside. So key levels I can have marked out. I'm just going to mark out now your previous day lows to 1150, and I'm also going to mark out this 214.50 here as well. As for Google, nice reclaim. You can see just a lot more consolidation here on the 1 hour time frame. But for Google, you can just draw out this box. Preferably now for Google, break outside the box or a potential push up in towards this 199. But as for Google, key levels we're going to have marked out previous day highs, which is this 195. If you can maintain above your 195 now, we can see this nice continued push, potentially back up and towards your 198.50 here and above. As for Netflix, this one just consolidation here as well. So coming into today here for the overall markets, what we're going to keep an eye out on is just the major indices and the reaction that we have off of your previous day highs, both the SPY and the Qs. As for continuation higher, my favorite name is, of course, going to be NVIDIA, right, with the semiconductors for a potential pushback up and towards your 183. I do like Meta here as well. With a potential pushback up and towards your 784 here as well, which is going to be your all-time highs. And then for the rest of the names, Tesla, I actually do like this one if you can reclaim back above your 314. I'm open to playing Tesla to both sides just because the higher time frame is right fairly neutral, so it's just based off of intraday price action. So these are the main three ones I'm looking for continuation. AMD looks really good as well, but this one does have earnings after close, so we'll just be hands off today, and then we'll take a look at this one tomorrow morning. As for some downside, the overall market, I'm not too interested in downside unless we can show some weak price action on the major indices, but Apple and Amazon are still the ones that are showing a little bit more weakness compared to the overall higher time frames. All right, if you guys do have any charts, you guys can drop them in the chat, or any tickers you'd like me to go over. There are a decent amount of tickers we can go over here as well. Palantir did have earnings yesterday. We'll talk about this here in a second. All right, yeah, if you guys do have any charts, you guys can drop them in the chat, or any tickers you'd like me to go over. If you guys are enjoying this so far, I appreciate it if you guys drop me a like. If you guys want to join the watch list, that one is down in the description below. Also, I do live trade every single day, so if you do want to live trade with me, that is also in the description below as well. Okay, let's see. Good morning, what's up everyone? What brokerage? I personally use Interactive Brokers. Let me kind of answer questions as I mark out charts. But with Palantir, this one is at all-time high. So you can see this one's nonstop. Absolutely crazy on this name. I actually sold some so early on Palantir. It's crazy how it's at 170 now. I remember I sold some on this like initial pop when it had when it was at 100. But for Palantir, crazy push towards the upside. Now we have more earnings that are pushing this higher as well. Key levels that we can have marked out. Let me actually just remove some of these levels that aren't as relevant. But for Palantir now, key levels is going to be this 160. Now we also have just marked out your earnings high, which is just going to be your 172. So for Palantir, 172. We also have your 160 level marked out here. Now what I like to see for continuation is really going to be the hold above your after hours highs 172. If you can maintain above your 172, you can see this continue push towards the upside. If we end up rejecting off this level, there's a potential we could see a little bit more downside here. I would not be looking for a day one reversal just because we are at all-time highs here on Palantir. As for long side, I personally would not be interested in long side either, just because it is very overextended. We're at all-time highs. Now we already had that push in the pre-market here as well. The only way I look for upside is if you had some sort of IV flush, and then maybe you're looking for the reclaim, right? Whenever these moves already happen in the pre-market, right, we already took out your after hours highs. I would be very cautious on these ones just because the retest off of your after hours highs 172 usually just has super high IV. So even if this trade does work out, majority of the times it's going to be very difficult and it's very risky just because the IV is very elevated after earnings. So what you need is an IV flush, any sort of major pullback or any sort of kind of dip where you can be going long towards the upside. If it breaks above and retests, then that usually means the IV is still very much elevated. So you want to be very cautious, right? So the IV is going to be over 100 right off the bat. What you want to see is an IV flush. So let's say, for example, you're looking at the 175 calls, right? These calls are going to get smoked right off the bat because they're out of the money. But if you can have a dip, right, the contracts are going to get crushed, then you could be looking for the reclaim above your 172 for a potential 175 calls for a pushback higher. I potentially could have a video on it. It is a little bit more of a complex play. It only happens during earnings or any sort of major news events, but you have to be very cautious. My recommendation is if you don't understand IV, do not trade names with earnings or the day after earnings. At least wait for the first 15 to 30 minutes to cool off before you look to take any trades because the IV is going to be very elevated. Okay, let's see. SPY bullish, MVTS is giving me a headache. Yeah, MVTS is just a sympathy play. This one had earnings recently, but the reason why I popped originally is because it had a deal with NVIDIA. So that's why I had a nice push higher. But this one did seem like it just dropped here in the pre-market, pushed higher, just had earnings. So had earnings recently. Let me scroll down here. Let me just go over some of these names. Oracle. Key level here on Oracle is going to be this 253. We're also going to mark out now your all-time highs here as well. So a lot of these semiconductors reclaiming key levels. What we're going to keep an eye out on is now going to be this 253. If you can maintain above your 253, that is your previous day highs. You can see this nice push back up and towards your 260 here and above. There seems to be a lot to look for when you analyze. If you're to do your own pre-market preps like you, how do you filter noise and keep it simple and not getting analysis paralysis? That's a good question. So really, I just go over a bunch of tickers, but stick to your top 2 to 3 tickers, and it's just old highs and old lows, right? All my thesis is just the reaction that we usually have off of your previous day highs and previous day lows to build at least a bias here on the higher time frame. So for something like Tesla, previous day highs marked out, you can see another touch here. If we can get above your previous day highs, we can see continuation higher. If we maintain underneath your previous day highs, then potentially you can see this push back down in towards its previous day's range. So it is fairly simple. If you watch these pre-market preps enough, you'll get the hang of it, and then you can just have your own pre-market preps and just use me as, right, whatever, use me as a confluence essentially. As for a few other ones, Shopify, this one, nice bounce, kind of right off that 117. This one shaping up fairly nicely. I talked about this one, cup and handle. I'm not too sure how many people are looking to play Shopify, but this one does have earnings coming up. Nice kind of bounce right off that 117. I would like to see now the push back up and towards your 129 here. It has earnings tomorrow. So I'll be very cautious of playing this one here as well. As for AVGO, nice reclaim back above your previous day highs, and now we're reclaiming back above this 296 here. For AVGO, what I like to see, maintain above your 296. You can also look for the maintain above your previous day highs here, 298 for this continued push back up and towards the 303. So that's what we have here on AVGO. As for a few other names, HIMS, this one had earnings yesterday, so this one dropping about 10% here. On HIMS, we're just kind of right back into this general area where we had earnings last time with this big drop. If you're to draw this out here on HIMS, we actually have a pretty big range here, just kind of in between this 67 and this 40 level. But for HIMS, a little bit of reaction here now, right back into key levels of support. The level I'm going to have marked out on this one is just going to be this low that we have created. So it is your 56 here. So this is the general area for HIMS. I'd like to see the reaction off of. You can see yesterday, multiple touches around this general area. If you want to see potential mean reversion coming into today, you like to see a hold of this 56 key level. If we get back underneath, then we could be looking for the short underneath your 56 for this continued push down in towards your pre-market lows, which is going to be your 53.50. All right, we do have Some red folder news that is going to be at 10 a.m. Let me scroll down here as well. Let me go over. I haven't went over gold in a while. Let me take a look at gold. So yeah, gold is just consolidating here. I have a lot of lines marked out, but if I was to remove this, and you see a lot more consolidation now after having this really solid push higher, I would just draw out this general area. You can see multiple touches off of your 34, 40, and then kind of towards the downside in this general area, which is, I'd say it's actually more of a flat top kind of break forming here on gold. So what I would like to see, right, eventually break above and continuation higher. But at least intraday wise, you're just going to be looking for key levels, right? Previous day highs, previous day lows here on gold. As for multiple touches, right, I would have to redraw my levels, but on gold, right, just mark out these general areas. Maybe I should just remove this. Key levels I'd have marked out here on gold. It's just consolidating. Whenever it's consolidating, it's a little bit trickier to trade, especially if you are looking for continuation. There's just a lot more mean reversions and a lot more reversals compared to right names that have continuation. It's just a lot easier to trade. Platform, I use TradingView for charts, and then I use Interactive Brokers for my executions. As for Hood, this one pushing up nicely after holding and reclaiming back above our 99 key psych level. You can see right off the bat, maintained above this 99, and now we're pushing back towards the upside. As for Hood, the levels I'd like to see get back above now is going to be this 107.50 along with your previous day highs. So this is when we had earnings last week. You can see we have multiple touches around this general area. So what I'd like to see now, reclaim back above your previous day highs, 107.50 for this potential pushback up in towards. Now it's going to be this earnings highs, 111 here on the higher time frames. Okay, let me scroll down. Are you selling 0-day options? No, I'm trading options. I trade momentum. Question, as you lay out your previous day highs and previous day lows for relative for support and resistance areas, where or when do you implement the 15-minute or related opening range? So yeah, this is basically in the pre-market. So I have marked out your previous day highs and previous day lows. The market hasn't even opened, so I can't mark out your opening range candles if the market hasn't opened yet. So that's what I do when the market actually opens. As for an example, right, this is a good example here yesterday, right? Price got above your previous day highs on NVIDIA. If we were to mark this out, you can see previous day highs. We also have marked out kind of this 5-minute range here as well. So right off the bat, nice continue push higher above your previous day highs, now above your key levels, right? Your 5-minute range was useful in this case, but wasn't as useful because it was in between your previous day highs, but ended up retesting later your previous day highs along with, I think it was your 15-minute range for this continued push back towards the upside. If you're looking at the SPY and Qs, in this case, right off the bat, immediate retest right off your previous day highs for this nice continued push towards the upside. So you can use your previous day highs along with the opening range, especially if there's no other setup, right? A good indication is basically your opening range candle. So within the first 5 minutes, you can see really strong push towards the upside. Plus, it's above your previous day high. So this really signifies to me that most likely it's going to continue higher up and towards the next key level that we had, which in this case we marked out yesterday was that full gap fill. 563.98, and you can see that's where markets gravitated towards. So I used the bias that I had in the pre-market, and then I also used the price action intraday to confirm my bias, which in this case was that opening range candle. That's usually why we say wait for the first like 10 to 15 minutes to see how the market reacts. If the market confirms your thesis, then you could be looking for continuation higher towards upside. Okay, let me go over some other names here as well. IWM. So as for IWM, reclaiming key levels here on this name, which is your 217. We're just kind of right back into this general area where we broke down from. But for IWM, now what I like to see is it maintain above your previous day highs and also this 220 key psych level here as well. So I like to see it hold this 220 for this continued push back towards the highs. Let's see. Do I still go for a 2-to-1 risk to reward if I only buy one con, or do I do a stop at high of day? Yeah, if you have one contract, it's very difficult to trade one contract. But if you're looking for a 1 to 2, I'd personally just base it off of your key levels, right? Sometimes high of day can be a 1 to 2, sometimes it's not going to be a 1 to 2, but you always want to sell at key levels. So if you only have one contract, it probably doesn't make too much sense to sell at high day, so you'd have to sell at TP2. So whatever TP2 is, or a 1 to 2 risk reward ratio, then that's where you want to sell. HIM's earnings, how do you track IV? So IV is implied volatility. This is very important, especially if you're trading earnings, because the implied volatility is going to be higher because we have a major news event. So whenever we have volatility, it's good, but if we have expected volatility or implied volatility, that's going to be a little bit more difficult, because when we're expecting volatility, that's when the options are going to price in for that. So for something like AMD coming into today, right, we have a major news event. I'm not sure what the expected move is, but the IV is going to be over 100, because generally speaking, when earnings happens, there's probably the implied move on AMD is probably going to be a plus, like if I was to guess, it would probably be plus 7% move. So they're implying, right, a plus 7% move on AMD towards the upside or the downside. So if the markets don't move plus 7% towards the upside or the downside, essentially the calls and puts are both going to get crushed, because that's the implied move on the ticker. So you have to be cautious of that, especially if it's the day before earnings, which is today, right? We have earnings after close. Let's see. Seems like majority of the ADR is happening in the first 15 lately before a clear read on the market. Yeah, normally speaking, you'll still have opportunity. So with the actual indices themselves, they've had a nice move, really strong push within the first kind of 15 to 30 minutes. But you can see as the overall market pushed higher within the first 15 minutes, there's plenty of other opportunity on the tech side. Generally speaking, you like to see other names lead the market, but yesterday SPY and Qs was leading the market, but then you can see Nvidia, nice move. You end up having like Microsoft, you even had like Apple for a push higher, right? Meta, you can see all these moves that are happening as the Qs are now consolidating. They basically look for names that have the best risk reward. Are you using IBKR to do your chart analysis? Mine aren't. Yeah, so I use trading view. I use IBKR for execution. As for coin, showing a little bit of weakness here. So I had earnings last week, continue to show weakness. Yesterday, just a lot of consolidation. Now we're actually breaking underneath key levels of support, which is your 310. What we like to see now, potential kind of retest of your 310 for this continued pushback towards the downside. So coin key level is going to be this 310 here on the higher time frames. Let's see. When you set your ranges for previous day highs, how do you know how big to make the ranges? Hope that makes sense. It's just going to be whatever is best fit. So as you can see right here, previous day highs, whatever has multiple touches. So usually from the bodies to the wicks, we can see body to the wick here, touch here, and then you have another touch, right? Whatever's essentially, there's no exact like a range or how big of a range you should have. It's whatever has multiple touches, and it's whatever time frame that you're on. Personally, I like drawing these on the 15-minute. From anywhere between 3 to 5 sessions is good. Okay, I'm new here, learning a lot. Let's see, new subscriber. Did you stop using the 5-minute order, more focused on previous day highs and previous day lows? I always use that. I always use both. People always ask me, do I focus on one? I always have 3 setups: the previous day highs, previous day lows, the opening ranges, and the order block. Those are the only 3 that I've been using. I have other setups that are opening plays, but usually they're in combination with one of those setups. But I always use those every single day, right? It's either your previous day highs, previous day lows, the opening ranges, or the order blocks. Preferably if they have both of them in combination with one another, even better, right? Usually I like having multiple confluences. So if I have multiple confluences and they both setups form, then that's going to make it even more high probability. Okay, answered that one. Palantir, yeah. Let's see. Okay, let me go over some tickers, or I'll go over my game plan here. About 4 more minutes left. I'll go over a few more actually. SoFi, nice kind of hold of this 21. Higher time frames, trying to hold up, just more consolidation now in SoFi. I like to see, right, the hold of your 2088, and I personally like to see the break back above this 23 for this continuation higher. As for a few other names, I think it was, what else do we have here? Yeah, CRWV, this one's dying out, not really showing too much anymore. As for a few other names, let me look at this recent IPO. So yeah, for Figma, I talked about this one. If it gets underneath this 112, potentially can show some weakness here all the way down in towards, now it's gonna be this 85. So for this one, not too much interested anymore, just because it's not showing any more strength. So I'd be cautious on this one. 84 most likely going to get hit coming into today. As for some other which strike to buy, is I always buy weeklies, and I buy one out the money or one with most volume. Apple was bearish yesterday, yeah, just because it's continued, had earnings as well. As for open, this one recently had a really big pop towards the upside, pulling back. So small caps are a little bit different than large caps, but a lot of times now with open coming right back down in towards key levels, what we like to see now is really the reclaim back above number 1,210, which it ended up reclaiming yesterday. Now what you like to see, get above your previous day highs. So that's going to be key here for open. If you can get above your previous day highs and hold, that is going to be key for continuation higher. So you like to see now break above your 255 hold for this continued pushback towards upside. Yeah, no spamming. Are there any old Discord recordings to see how the premium tier works? Yeah, all the recordings are inside the Discord just through live sessions, and we have courses. We have a bunch of other things as well. What indicators are on your chart? Can you share? I don't have any indicators currently on this chart right here. Okay. I'll go over one more. I see someone mentioning APLD. So yeah, APLD, as you can see right here for this ticker, this one's pushing up nicely. So as I mentioned, this one had earnings. This one was holding up on Friday here as well. I expected this push back up and towards your potential last week's highs. You can see once we got above your previous day highs, nice retest right off our 13, continuation up and towards this 14. Now what we like to see, break above 14 for this continued push back higher. All right. Let me go over my game plan coming into today, and then I will call it a day. Let me actually just refine my levels here as well. I'm just going to mark out your previous day highs. I'm going to mark out this level along with kind of this previous day highs general area, which is going to be this 565. I can mark out this other level here as well, which is going to be your previous day high. So I can mark out a couple key levels for the QQQ coming into today. And then at least for the upside, we have other levels marked out. But for SPY and Qs coming into today, what I have marked out is going to be this 565. If we can maintain your 565, you can see this continuation higher. If we break underneath this level, the next level for support is going to be this previous day highs, 564 here on the higher time frames. Only way I'm a little bit more leaning towards the downside, if it shows weakness right off the bat, gets underneath their previous day highs and gets back in between this 564 along with this 562. As for SPY, similar thing here, key levels I have marked out is going to be this 631. If we can maintain above your 631, we can see this continue push back towards the upside. If we break underneath this 631, potentially we can see this push back down in between its previous day's range here. So key level is going to be fairly clear. SPY 631. As for the QQQ, the key level here is going to be this 565, at least right off of the bat. We do have some red folder news here at 10 a.m., which is the ISM services. As for my main watches towards the upside, number one, NVIDIA maintain above your previous day highs for this potential pushback up in towards this 183. Meta, I do like here as well, showing some nice strength yesterday. We can mark out now. It's just going to be your previous day highs. Let's mark this out. Previous day highs, 766. If you can maintain above 766, I like to see this push up in towards this 784. I do like Tesla here as well. I'll be open to playing Tesla both sides, but 312 is going to be key. Potential reclaim, push back higher. Rejects, we could be looking for continuation, potentially lower. So Tesla, I'm open to playing both sides. As for Apple and Amazon, I'm still a little bit more leaning towards the downside on these tickers just because they had bearish earnings. Plus, yesterday pop as the overall market's moving higher. So Apple, Amazon continue to show a little bit more weakness. So if the market does want to drop today, we can focus on these names. As for Palantir, this one I'm somewhat interested in, but most likely going to be off the table for me just because it already took out this earnings high unless we have an IV flush. So we'll take a look at Palantir. As for a few other names that I am somewhat interested in, Hood, if we can reclaim key levels and hold. And then I also do like AVGO as well if we can maintain above this 296. Okay, I do see a few questions here that some people have. Let me just answer a few questions for a few minutes. But basically, that is my game plan coming into today. Yes, I use market orders. Do you have a Discord channel? I don't see premium option on WAP. Yes, that is in the description below. How do you determine whether a breakout from a key level support and resistance is valid or fake out? And what specific confirmation signals or volume patterns do you use to rely on before entering? I trade the break and retest, so I'm not trading breakouts. So I'm waiting for the candle closure above. If you are trading breakouts, you like to see strong volume, displacement. I personally trade the break and retest, so I wait for the breakout and then I wait for the retest. I made the most money on my worst trades, not following my trading plan, usually averaging down like crazy. How do you keep yourself from falling into this mindset? So yeah, at that point, a lot of times, right, if that's the case, then you're going to be stuck in that constant cycle because you have bad habits built up and now you're being rewarded for your bad habits. So that never, right, that's never going to be long-term sustainable. You can make money by not following your rules, but long term, right, if you keep doing that, right, keep averaging down, all it takes is one trade and then you're going to end up blowing up your account. So that's why you always have to follow your trading plan, follow your rules, right? That's the number one key thing, because at the end of the day, right, even if you are making money, right, if you're not following your plan, you're eventually going to give those gains back. So just understanding that from a long-term perspective, right, it's going to be very hard to kind of rewire your brain now just because you have been rewarded for those bad habits. So you kind of have to take a step back, right? Obviously, it's going to be very difficult because you mentioned you're making money. So if you're making money, it's going to be hard to kind of rewire your brain because you think you're doing something right because you're making money, but you're not following your rules. So eventually, right, if you're not going to lose today, you might lose right in a few weeks, or you might lose in a month from now because you're not following your game plan. I'm not spam. Let's see. Palantir. Yeah, I mentioned Palantir earlier, right? We had this earnings gap up. Key level is going to be this 172. I would be a little bit more hands off on Palantir unless we can get an IV flush for continuation. Okay, yeah. Do you still use a 5-minute orb? I answered that question earlier. Yes, I use that setup every single day. It's within my system. I have multiple setups within the system: previous day highs, opening ranges, and the order block. But yeah, that is going to be it for me today. I'm gonna get ready for market open. If you guys did enjoy that, I appreciate it. If you guys drop me a like. If you guys want to join the watch list, that is in the description below. And I will see you guys all tomorrow. All right. Take care, everyone. Have a great rest of the day. Peace.